Welcome to Meeple University. Today's lecture is Logic Puzzle Tutorial for Alchemists by Tarrant, Falcke, Part 2 of 2.
Hello and welcome to Meeple University's tutorial on how to solve the logic puzzle in the board game Alchemists. In this video I won't be going through the rules of the game Alchemist, but I'll be helping you out with how to solve the logic puzzle, which is how to link up the ingredients in the game with the alchemicals. If you want to know the rules of the game, you can refer to our other video, part 1 of 2. In the game of Alchemist, there are 8 ingredients and there are 8 alchemical molecules. The Alchemist app will randomly assign one molecule to each of the ingredients. The purpose of the logic part of the game is that by mixing pairs of ingredients, you'll produce one of these 7 potions. You'll then be able to use the rules of alchemy to deduce which molecules relate to which ingredients. The rules for mixing alchemicals are as follows. Each alchemical molecule has 3 aspects, red, blue and green. Each can be large or small, positive or negative. When you mix a pair of alchemicals, look for the pair of aspects which has the same colour, the same sign, but different size. That is the potion that it will create. In this case, red positive. For this pair here, red negative. This pair here would produce blue negative. In the event that no such pair of aspects exists, you will find that each of the aspects will be the same size, different sign. These 2 molecules cancel each other out and produce a neutral potion. Through mixing ingredients through the game and following these rules, you will be able to deduce which ingredients relate to which molecules. The simplest way to gain information is by either testing a potion on a student or drinking a potion. To do that, take 2 ingredient cards, scan them into the app, and the app will tell you what potion that creates. You can then place a blue positive token in the intersection of those 2 ingredients. Because you know that it requires 2 blue positive aspects of different sizes to create a blue positive potion, you can deduce that neither scorpion nor feather has a negative blue aspect. So you can go through for both those ingredients and cross out any molecule with a negative blue aspect. The second sort of information, which can be gained from testing on students or drinking potions yourself, is the discovery of a neutral potion. Place a neutral potion in the intersection of those ingredients. There are only 4 pairs of alchemicals which will produce a neutral potion. The top 2 rows, the second 2 rows, the third 2 rows, and the fourth 2 rows. If you look at those alchemicals, you will see that if you mix those 2 together, they will form neutral. These 2 will form neutral, these 2, and these 2. What we can deduce from this is that if the toad is this alchemical, then the birdfoot must be this one. If the toad is not this one, then the birdfoot cannot be this one. If the toad is this one, the birdfoot will have to be this one. And so on down the line. If the toad is this, the bird's foot is this one. So, in a way, you're creating pairs of alchemicals in these that are linked. You can't rule anything out. The toad could be any one of these 8 and the bird claw could be the corresponding one. But you know later that when you rule out options for toad, you'll be able to rule out the corresponding option for the foot. So the way I'm going to signify this is by indicating the pairs with letters. So these 2 are linked and these 2 are linked. If ever I cross out A, I can cross out this A. If ever I cross out this B, I can cross out this B, and so on. This will make things quicker later on, but doesn't allow me to cross anything out now. When selling potions to adventurers, Often the primary reason for doing that is to gain money, but you can also gain information. Suppose I'm attempting to sell this adventurer a blue positive potion, which I'll mix using Scorpion and Toad. I can press sell potion, blue positive, scan those in, and this tells me I was correct. This therefore gives me the information that Toad plus Scorpion is blue positive. I can then use that information exactly the same way as I would have if I had tested it on a student. So I can cross out all the blue negatives. I've already done that on the Scorpion, but I can now do that on the Toad, crossing out the 4 blue negatives. Now, I can look at my neutral pairs. I said before, if I cross out B in this column, I can cross out B in this column, because I know that these would mix to form a neutral pair if they were true. Likewise, I can cross out this D, this E, and this H. So in the space of one sold potion, I've gained information about both of these. Selling potions often gives you ambiguous information. So if I were trying to sell this adventurer a green negative potion, green negative, scan that in with these 2 ingredients, it gives me this icon. This tells me that I was correct on the sign but wrong on the colour, and therefore what is created is either red or blue and negative. There are a series of these ambiguous ones in the game for this purpose. So I can place red or blue negative in the appropriate spot. Now, working directly off that, the first conclusion I can draw is that I can cross out any alchemicals for which both blue and red are positive. So going down both of these lines, both blue and red are positive, both blue and red are positive. So I can only cross out 2, whereas this non-ambiguous information allowed me to cross out 4. If I go to my Scorpion, I can do likewise, cross out these 2 here. Now, let's apply some logic to this board. With the Scorpion, I've already mixed 2 blue positive potions with it. And I've mixed this potion, which is either red negative or blue negative. I already know that I can't mix a blue negative because I've already mixed a blue positive. You cannot mix a blue negative and a blue positive with the same ingredient, because then it would need to have both positive and negative blue aspect. So I can actually be more specific on this and conclude that it must be a red negative. That gives me more information about the fern. I can cross out all the red positives on the fern. I can do that on the Scorpion as well, but I've already crossed all of those out. Now, let's look back at what we know about the Scorpion. Previously, we crossed out all of the blue negatives. So we knew that it was blue positive, but we didn't know what size the blue positive was. Now if you look at what we've crossed out, we actually only have small blue positives left. Therefore, we know that both the feather and the toad must have a large blue positive, because in order to form a blue positive, both alchemicals must have the same sign but different size. So I can cross out these 2 blue positives and these 2 blue positives. Because these are paired, I can also cross out this C and this F. There is even further logic that you can apply to the grid at this point. Focus in on these 2 alchemicals. These are the only 2 remaining options for the feather, and they're the only 2 remaining options for the toad. This tells us 2 things. Firstly, it tells us that if the toad is this one, the feather must be this one. If the toad is this one, the feather must be this one. So we have a couple of pairs, and we can use the same format we did before with letters to pair those up. It also tells us that none of the other ingredients can be these two alchemicals, because if the mandrake root were this one, for example, then both of these would have to be this, and it doesn't work. So you can go through and cross out the other ingredients on these two alchemicals, like so. This is something that you can always look out for when you've got one ingredient that has formed the same potion with two other chemicals. Often those two other chemicals will be associated in this way. Right now, we've now got 4 ingredients that are limited to 2 possibilities. Once you get to that point, you can start publishing hedge theories. Just look for the ingredients you've got, or look for the alchemicals that you've got left, and look at which colour you don't know. For the feather, we know that red and blue are both positive, but we don't know negative. So you can start publishing green hedge theories for that. Likewise on the scorpion, green is the colour you don't know. In fact, you haven't done any tests which have told you anything about green, and so in all of these cases, you could publish green hedge theories. In the apprentice mode, another way of gaining information is to debunk theories. Suppose a theory has been published on the fern. You can use the debunk theory action, choose the fern and an aspect, and it will tell you what sign that aspect has. You and all players can now immediately cross out all green positives on the fern without having to place anything in the grid. From this, you can now look at what's remaining on the fern and see that the red aspect has only large negative options left. Therefore, both of the ingredients with which it is mixed to form a red negative must have a small red negative aspect. So, looking at the claw, I can cross out this one, which also allows me to cross out this one. Looking at the scorpion, I can cross out this one. All of a sudden, I have concluded these 3 ingredients. I can cross out horizontally across all of those rows for the other ingredients. Then, because I also created this pair before of K's, I can conclude that this one must be right and this one is wrong. I can now publish confirmed theories on all 4 of these ingredients. So, even if the debunking action was incorrect and I lost reputation, I've still confirmed 4 pieces of information, so it's still a win. I'll now show you another way to interpret ambiguous information from selling a potion. Suppose I mix these to sell this guy a red positive potion. Red positive. This tells me that it's positive but not red, so it's either blue or green positive. I can place that in here in the intersection of those 2 ingredients. However, there's a useful rule to know about each ingredient or each alchemical. If you mix one alchemical with each of the other 7, you will get exactly 2 green potions of the same type, exactly 2 blue potions of the same type, 2 red potions of the same type, and 1 neutral potion. I've already mixed 2 blue positive potions with the scorpion. I can't mix a third, so this must be a green positive. I can then treat this as I would any other green positive, crossing out all the green negatives, which in this case leaves me with only 1 option for the mushroom. I can then cross them out for the remaining ingredients. When it comes down to the end of the grid, it's useful to think through the experiments that you're going to do so that you know you get a non-ambiguous result. Suppose these are the 3 ingredients you've got left. 2 of them you already know, 1 of them you don't. think through what results you're going to get by mixing them. So if I mix these two, if I mix this and blue is this, it's going to give me blue negative. If I mix it and blue is this one, it will give me red negative. And if I mix these, it will give me red negative. So if I choose to test this on a student and I get a red negative, I'll have an ambiguous result. But if I mix these two together, the mushroom is here. If I mix them, it will give me a red positive. If I mix it with this one, it will give me neutral. And if I mix it with this one, it will give me blue negative. So this is a much better experiment to conduct. So I'll test that on the student. And it's a blue negative. So immediately I can place my blue negative up in the grid, take them away, and use my conclusion. I can cross those out, I can cross those out. I'm down to my last option for the fern, and I'm down to my last option for the mandrake root. So I've completed the grid. I can now publish theories on everything and maximize my victory points. That's the end of the tutorial. If you're unfamiliar with the process of solving logic puzzles, I would recommend that you do a couple of dry runs using the app, testing potions, to try to do some deductions by yourself before you start playing the game. If there's any one single piece of logic advice, it's that you should always keep looking back at your grid when you cross more things out to see if you've got new information on the size of the aspects.